captain demanded her rank. In public, the base went silent when the Admiral called her first. "Excuse me, what is your rank?" He does not ask it quietly. Captain Derek Lassiter asks it in the voice of a man who has identified an irregularity and intends to correct it in public for public benefit. He has been standing at the center of Naval Station Pembroke's East Formation Ground for 40 minutes, and he has not found anything this interesting until now. The question drops through the morning air like a blade waiting to fall, held at height, deliberate, released in front of 67 pairs of eyes without warning. 67 naval personnel in formation for the Admiral's inspection visit. Salt air and diesel exhaust from the perimeter generator units. The specific percussive crack of polished boots on asphalt. A flat gray sky above the bay to the east. The kind of sky that carries the smell of water mixed with the morning's first diesel from the boatyard. Lassiter has 4 service stripes and 14 campaign ribbons, 2 with commendation stars, and he stands at the center of the formation ground the way men stand when they have administered spaces like this for long enough to have stopped distinguishing between their authority and the ground itself. Arms crossed. Chin raised, his shadow moving across the asphalt in the low morning light, long and deliberate. His shadow falls across her position at the formation's outer edge. She does not look up. 30 years old. Plain working blues with no rank insignia, an absence that registers as irregular immediately to anyone whose eye runs the uniform correctly, and as nothing at all to anyone without the training to look. Regulation bun. A communications assessment clipboard in her left hand, held at a precise angle, her right hand moving across it with the measured pressure of someone for whom this is not observation but confirmation. She has been standing at the formation's outer edge for 24 minutes. She has not looked up at the formation once. She has not needed to. She controls her breathing. 4 in. Hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. The way someone breathes when they have been doing it deliberately under pressure for long enough that it requires no thought. Only one person on the formation ground is watching closely enough to notice. Lassiter steps 2 paces closer. His boots find the asphalt with the specific weight of authority being demonstrated. "I asked you a question. What is your rank? And what exactly is your purpose on this formation ground, young lady?" "I report to the inspection oversight team, sir," she says it without looking up. Not rude, not nervous. Exact. In the way of a person who has been asked a question that does not require a longer answer and has given it precisely the appropriate length. Then she makes another annotation on the clipboard and does not stop. The formation is watching, all 67 of them. The specific quality of collective attention that arises when authority meets something it cannot categorize, in public, with witnesses. Over at the formation's eastern flank, Command Master Chief Vernon Holt stops writing on his own clipboard. 61 years old. 34 years of service. The kind of stillness that is built over a long time in difficult rooms, knowing when to talk and when to watch, and understanding that the difference between those two things is more important than most things taught in any formal setting. He is at this formation because it is his function to observe things that others miss, and to have considered opinions about them that he keeps until they are useful. He has been doing this for 34 years without becoming wrong about many things. He noticed her the moment she arrived. Not as a problem. As a question. The angle of the clipboard in her left hand. Not the angle of a contractor. Not the angle of a support specialist. The angle of someone who has held a rifle with that hand for long enough that even resting objects are positioned for control. The way she stands slightly off-axis from her apparent task, with a simultaneous sight line to the main entrance gate and both secondary exits. The way her posture does not change, not a degree, when Lassiter's voice enters the air, not stiffening, not relaxing, not performing anything, just staying. The kind of stillness that is not passive. The kind that is trained until it runs below thought. He watches her give Lassiter 3 words and return to the clipboard. His pen stops moving. His jaw tightens. His eyes narrow to something careful and unreadable. There is more. There is always more, if you know how to look. The calluses on her right hand are not where a systems analyst carries them. The way her right foot is positioned, slightly angled, heel dropped a degree below regulation standing rest, is exactly how a person stands when they have spent years in conditions where the ground is not always level and the body learns to compensate automatically. The specific quality of her stillness when Lassiter's boots approach. Not the stillness of someone waiting to see what happens, but the stillness of someone who has already decided how to respond to each possible version of what happens. 3 different responses for 3 different escalation paths. Chosen before he opened his mouth. He adds it to a picture he has already started building, and the picture is becoming something very specific indeed. By 0915, the story has run through the formation's informal channels in 4 versions. The unranked woman who talked back to the captain. The contractor who doesn't know what base she's on. The tech girl who gave Lassiter attitude with the full formation watching. In every version, she is small and out of place. In every version, Lassiter is correct. The laughter in the version circulating through the junior officer's corridor is warm for him and dismissive for her. The way laughter calibrates when it understands which direction is safe. She is in the communications relay annex at 0918, running an assessment she filed 48 hours in advance. The duty tech, Petty Officer Carver, 23, 18 months in, is finishing his own diagnostic on the relay array when she arrives. She nods at him, scans the array panel for 11 seconds, and says, "You have a sync fault on relay 7. Not the primary stack. The secondary authentication bridge. It's been running degraded for 72 hours, and it won't appear on the standard diagnostic because the fault lives in the handshake layer, not the output register. Run a sublayer authentication trace, and you'll see it." Carver runs the specific test she has named, using a procedure he had to look up the name for. The fault is exactly where she said it would be. She makes a notation on her clipboard in the security critical column, not the general maintenance column, not the operational notes column, the security critical column, which routes directly to the inspection team's formal record. Most assessment contractors do not know this column exists. Holt is in the doorway. He watches the exchange. He watches the test run. He watches the notation go into the correct column. He does not enter the room. Something about this woman. Not a question anymore. Something assembling. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. At 0931, she is in the mess hall annex, eating a meal that tastes exactly like institutional efficiency, and she is not eating it so much as appearing to eat it while doing something else entirely. She has a table near the east wall. Sightline to the service entrance, the main corridor junction, and the administrative building's exterior door simultaneously. She is filing patterns, not on the clipboard, in her head. Who moves through the administrative building between 0900 and 1000? Which NCOs the junior officers defer to when the captain is not present, as opposed to when he is? Were the authorization signatures on the posted duty roster cluster, by department, and by week? The pattern of signatures tells a story that does not appear in any single document, but is visible across all of them if you have been looking at it long enough. She has been looking at it for 11 days. She looked at a version of it from a different angle for the 9 months before she arrived. She knows which signatures matter and why and what they connect to. And 3 of them connect to a shell company that submitted invoices for equipment that was never inspected at the specification level anyone ordered. And 1 of the 3 sits in an office 40 meters from where she is eating her meal. She drinks her coffee. She keeps her face at the specific angle that registers as a person eating alone. She files another pattern. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. By 0945, the inspection team's preliminary documentation is under review in the main conference room. She is present at the outer table, observer status, which is where contractors sit, which is where she is supposed to sit. The defensive positioning assessment for the base's northern perimeter is on the table. 2 items flagged compliant by the inspection team's lead. She makes 3 quiet handwritten corrections in the margin. The lead reviews the corrections. His face does something careful and very neutral. He does not ask who made them. He incorporates all 3 into the report without comment. The corrections align precisely with Naval Special Warfare Center doctrine, the specific, updated version of that doctrine, revised 8 months ago, not yet widely distributed. Holt, against the wall, watches this. He is running his list. The relay fault, named by its technical designation, not the common term which every tech uses, but the precise engineering designation, which appears in the original naval specification document and almost nowhere else. The positioning corrections, exactly aligned with a doctrine update that most people in this room have not read, and a significant portion do not know exists. The way she moved through the building's corridors before the session, with no map reference, not learning the layout, confirming it, as though she had studied the architectural plans before she arrived and was now verifying that the building matched them. And the scar. He caught it again when she reached for the report. And something else, just below the scar's lower edge, partially covered by the sleeve. What might have been the edge of a mark. Dark ink, precise lines, not decorative in its geometry, not the kind of mark a person acquires by choice of sentiment. The inside of her right forearm, below where the sleeve sits in its current position. Jagged, irregular, the specific pattern left by shrapnel at close range. Not surgical. Not an accident of the kind that happens in training facilities or administrative postings. The kind of scar that requires being very close to an explosion and surviving it. And then a specific and extended rehabilitation, and then rebuilding grip strength in that hand until it performs its standard. Her grip on the pen is standard. Her grip is precise. And the call sign. He caught it for 2 seconds at 0931 when she answered an incoming transmission, before the frequency shifted. He has heard that call sign once before. 7 years ago. A classified briefing in a building he had the access to enter, but not the clearance to stay and past the opening summary. A personnel file that was closed before he saw the rank. He had wondered what rank it was. He does not say any of this to the person next to him. He does not say it to anyone. He adds it to the picture and keeps adding. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. By 1002, Lassiter has convened a brief session in the war room adjacent to the base commander's suite for senior staff, the base legal affairs officer, and has presented the credential irregularity as a security matter requiring formal action. Formal escalation follows. He does it in the corridor outside the conference room with 6 personnel present, because he does nothing without an audience. He requests the base security officer by name. He states, clearly and for the record, that an individual with no visible rank insignia and a credential packet referencing an oversight unit not listed in any current inspection roster is operating on this installation, and that he is formally requesting credential verification and temporary access suspension pending that review. Theatrical, deliberate, every word aimed at the people around him as much as at the security officer. He performs for crowds the way some men breathe, not by choice, from conditioning. She hands over her access card without being asked twice. She cooperates completely, and with the economy of someone who has rehearsed every version of this scenario and found all of them manageable. Name? The security officer asks. Vasquez? Assignment? Inspection oversight. The unit designation is in the packet. Rank? The packet covers rank structure. The packet references a unit we can't locate in the current roster. The verification contact chain is in the packet. Lassiter steps forward. His voice drops into the register he reserves for when the louder one has stopped producing results. Lower, more deliberate. The kind of quiet that is specifically performed to register as more dangerous than volume. I believe you'll find that operating on a naval installation without verifiable credentials is a matter of base security, not inspection protocol. And I believe you understand what that means for whatever assignment you claim to be conducting. She looks at him. Not defiantly, not anxiously, not with anything that he could call a reaction, in the measured way of a person carrying more information than the conversation requires, who has made a deliberate choice about how much of it the conversation receives. Yes, sir. Is there anything else you'd like to say on record before we proceed? 3 seconds. The kind of pause that is not hesitation. No, sir. Then you'll come with the security officer. She goes, calmly, with the posture of someone who planned for exactly this possibility. Not approximately. Exactly. And with the specific quality of cooperation that reads to most people as compliance and reads to Holt, watching from the corridor wall, as something else entirely. She controls her breathing. 4 in, hold 4. 4 out, hold 4. Behind her, Holt watches her walk. The way she moves through every corridor on this base, with the knowledge of someone confirming what they already know. 10 feet by 10 feet. Concrete walls with the paint worn through in the lower corners to institutional gray. A metal bench along the wall with 3 bolts on the left side and 2 on the right. The asymmetry of work done without caring about the room that receives it. A window near the ceiling. 6 inches of sky. Pale blue, showing nothing else. The smell of industrial cleaning fluid over something older and more permanent. The kind of accumulated institutional residue that no cleaning regimen removes because it has been in the walls long enough to become the walls. She sits. She does not pace. She does not examine the door. She checks her watch. This is the near-fail moment, the point where anyone watching from outside this room would say it is finished. Her access card is in a security office. Her credentials are being run through channels that will produce a flag, and the flag will be called suspicious. And the suspicious flag will be escalated. And somewhere in that escalation a door will open that Lassiter does not have the clearance to know exists. He thinks he is correcting a security irregularity. He is, in fact, setting in motion the last sequence he ever should have triggered. Games have rules. She stopped playing his game by its rules 10 months ago. Her watch reads 0952. In 21 minutes, at 10:13, Rear Admiral Thomas Keene's motorcade will arrive at the north gate of Naval Station Pembroke. The inspection is scheduled to begin at 10:25. He is habitually 7 minutes early. She confirmed this from 3 sources over the past 3 months. In 38 minutes, at 10:30, the inspection team's first documented stop is the communications relay station. The fault she flagged, recorded in the security critical column, time-stamped 0918, will be on the formal record. The duty tech's log will show the fault was present for 72 hours without detection. That 72-hour window corresponds to a specific equipment authorization signed by a specific procurement officer on a specific date. She has the signature on file. In approximately 2 hours, at 11:50, an encrypted status request she filed the morning she walked through the base gate 11 days ago will receive an automated response from Naval Special Warfare Command. The response does not require authorization from anyone currently on this installation. It requires only that she has not transmitted a clearing code from her secondary device within the specified window. Her secondary device is in the security office with her access card. The window closes at 11:47. Her watch is still on her wrist. Nobody thought to take it. She planned for this possibility 10 months ago, when the mission was first structured. 6 operators, 4 who did not come back. A procurement chain that began with a shell company, moved through 2 bases, and ended with equipment that failed at high temperature in a district of eastern Afghanistan that she can describe from memory, including the second-story window placements. The investigation found equipment malfunction. The investigation did not find the procurement chain. She has been finding it for 22 months. This base is the second to last point in the chain. She controls her breathing. 4 in. Hold 4. 4 out. Hold 4. At 1009, Holt finds the Admiral's aide in the administrative corridor. Lieutenant Commander, he says, the voice of a man who has delivered difficult information in difficult circumstances for 34 years and has no particular need to frame it dramatically. There is a situation in base security that I would recommend the Admiral be made aware of before the inspection begins. A credential review. A woman from the inspection oversight team. I'd make it a priority if I were the person deciding. The aide. Lieutenant Commander Okafor. 2 years with the Admiral, the kind of compose that comes from processing unusual information without displaying opinions about it, looks at him. Notes the rank. Notes the particular quality of certainty and a voice that doesn't overstate things. I'll see he's informed, Okafor says. Holt nods and returns to the formation ground. At 10:11, 3 vehicles arrive at the north gate. Not standard convoy spacing, tighter. The configuration of a party that has adjusted its timeline. The lead vehicle clears the gate at 10:12, 4 minutes ahead of schedule, and does not proceed to the administrative building as the posted itinerary specifies. It stops at the main entrance of the base security complex. Lassiter, waiting at the administrative building to receive the Admiral, watches this from 40 yards away. His face does something careful and controlled, and not quite successful. Rear Admiral Thomas Keane steps out with the economy of motion of a man who has not wasted a movement in 27 years of service. Okafor is at his shoulder. Behind them, 2 figures in dark suits whose credentials, if examined by anyone present, would resolve into something above the Admiral's clearance tier, in a way that no one at this base has the access to fully understand. They walk toward the security building. Lassiter moves to intercept. Admiral, if I could brief you on a security situation before the inspection begins, there's an individual in holding whose credentials. The Admiral walks past him. Not aggressively, not with any drama or visible irritation, simply not stopping for something that is not on his actual agenda for the morning. His stride does not break. They bring her forward from the holding room into the main corridor of the security building. Her access card is still with the security officer. Her working blues are correct, except for the right sleeve, which shifted when the security officer took her arm to escort her, shifted just enough, at the angle of her arm as she was brought through the door, to show what is on the inside of her right forearm. The tattoo. An anchor overlaid with a grid coordinate marker. rendered in precise black lines, not decorative, not personal, not the kind of mark that belongs to anyone who has not earned the specific designation it represents. The heraldic markings are exact. The anchor's flukes at the correct angle. The grid overlay in the precise scale used by one command, and one command only for one classification tier. Below the anchor, a 4-character designation in the specific typeface used by Naval Special Warfare Command's Special Programs Directorate, a font that does not appear in any publicly available document and that very few people in the United States military have seen in person. Below that, a line of text in the same precise lines that most people in this corridor do not have the clearance to understand, and that the 3 who do understand it will not speak aloud. Taken individually, any element of it could be questioned. Together, in that arrangement, in that typeface, at that scale, on the inside of that forearm, it cannot be questioned by anyone who has ever been in the same room as a personnel file from this program. It is the mark of a person who has operated at a level that most general and flag officers only know exists from summary briefings in rooms they were not invited to linger in. From 40 feet away, Holt sees it. His pen falls. He does not reach for it. His hand drifts to his side in the involuntary way of a body that has recognized something before the mind has finished assembling the sentence. Not toward anything, just moving. Because the body needed to move something. His face does not change visibly. But he goes rigid in a way that Torres, standing 2 feet away, will spend the next week trying to describe accurately. Holt says one word. Barely a sound at all. Torres hears it. Torres will spend 3 days deciding whether he actually heard what he thinks he heard. Warden. The Admiral stops in front of her. Not in front of the security officer. Not in front of the base commander, who is materialized in the corridor with the urgency of a man who understands that something important is occurring, without yet knowing what it is. Not in front of Lassiter, who is still in the corridor with the specific confidence of a man who believes this morning belongs to him. In front of her. Commander Vasquez, the Admiral says. 2 words. Calm, certain, the way a man says a name that he knows well and is not needed to check. The corridor detonated. Not with noise, with the specific physics of a space full of people ceasing all voluntary movement at the same instant. Someone's radio transmission cut off mid-sentence. The security officer's hand, still holding her access card, froze in the air between them at the exact height it had been when the Admiral spoke. A boot scuffed concrete somewhere near the south wall. A clipboard shifted against a doorframe. The fluorescent hum in the ceiling became the loudest sound in the building. And then the silence settled. With weight, with texture. With the specific density of 23 people holding every automatic physical response in simultaneous check. A badge swings against a chair back. Someone's breath releases involuntarily, small sounds filling the absence where every larger sound used to be, and the filling making the silence feel more total, not less. Lassiter said something. The beginning of something. A sentence about credentials, about protocol, about the formal process he initiated in accordance with. Captain, the Admiral said it without turning. You are going to want to stop talking. He turned back to her. He spoke for the record, in the specific cadence of a statement made for documentation, for the record, and for the clear understanding of all personnel currently present. Commander Elena Vasquez, Naval Special Warfare Command, Classified Operational Designation Warden 4, Special Programs Directorate, has been operating on this installation for 11 days at the direction of the Inspector General's office, conducting a classified procurement compliance audit. Her authority on this installation supersedes every rank currently present in this corridor, including my own. Every officer and enlisted personnel on this base, including myself, answers to her authority during the period of this operation. His hand came up. The salute moved from his side in deliberate stages. The formal geometry of military respect rendered slowly enough for every person present to understand each individual component of it. 4 counts. Crisp at every edge. The kind of salute that is not performed for an audience. The kind that becomes one. Okafor followed. The base commander, arriving at the only calculation available with visible effort, raised his hand. The security officer raised his, still holding her access card in the other. The inspection team members assembled in the corridor doorway. The personnel along the walls, each one running the same calculation and each one finding the same answer. One after another, not simultaneously, but in the particular wave of individual moments that happens when understanding reaches each person on its own timeline. 64. 3 did not raise their hands. They were approached by the 2 figures from the Admiral's 3rd vehicle. Words were exchanged at a volume no one else could catch. All 3 went with the agents through the east exit, one at a time, with the quiet institutional finality of a process that had been prepared for long before this morning. Holt raised his hand last. He had moved, while the rest of the corridor computed, to a position 6 feet from the Admiral. He stood there for a moment, 61 years old, 34 years behind him, a face that had forgotten how to be surprised by most things. And he raised his hand with the deliberateness of a person who has made a choice rather than followed a command, not because the calculation resolved. Because he had been building the pictures since 0840, piece by careful piece. The clipboard angle, and the wrist, and the call sign, and the notation in the column, and the scar, and because the picture was complete now. And because a salute given from knowledge is a different thing entirely from a salute given from rank. A chosen salute. The kind that cannot be ordered. She returned it. Lassiter stood at the corridor's edge with his hands at his sides, in the complete absence of everything they had always known what to do. His face moved through something that would not resolve into any recognizable expression. Not quite disbelief, not quite fear. Somewhere in the specific territory between them that a man arrives at, when the ground beneath a structure he spent years building turns out not to have been ground at all. He did not salute. The agents were already at his sides. 1 on each, with the quiet efficiency of people who have done this many times. Captain Lassiter, if you'll come with us, delivered in the flat professional register of a sentence that does not expect an argument and has never received one that mattered. He went with them through the east exit, quietly, without a final line, without anything that would give the moment the shape he would have preferred. She did not watch him leave. The corridor cleared by degrees. The formal documentation would take the rest of the day and most of the following week. 3 procurement contracts. 6 operators. 4 names that the process would, at last, put in the correct place in the public record, in the part of the record that the investigation had left empty for 22 months. She stood in the empty corridor for a moment after the last personnel had moved on. Then she went outside. He demanded her rank in front of 67 people to show her what accountability looked like on this installation. He forgot she had spent 11 days inside his procurement record, inside his authorization chain, inside his blind spot, and that the rank he publicly demanded she prove was the one that had already placed his name on a federal document signed before he ever stepped onto the formation ground that morning. The eastern perimeter fence runs along the edge of the base where the bay meets the service road, and in the hour before evening, the light comes down at the angles specific to this coast, salt water and late warmth mixing, bending the spectrum toward amber and then violet, a color specific enough to name this latitude from nothing else. Her watch reads 1839. The bay is catching the orange light and breaking it into flat pieces that shift and don't hold still. The list has one name left, without a confirmed location. The procurement officer who initiated the original contract authorization, the first signature on the first document. The person who connected the shell company to the supply chain 18 months before anyone deployed with the equipment. He transferred out of his last known position 6 weeks ago. She knows which city. She does not yet know which building, or which name he is currently using, or which agency has been helping him stay difficult to find. She has 3 leads, and none of them are confirmed. She has been in harder positions than 3 unconfirmed leads. Tomorrow is a different mission. Tonight, 4 names from a report filed as equipment malfunction are one step closer to what they were owed. Silence is a weapon too. She had been loading it for 11 days. Somewhere on a frequency that is not in any directory and requires an encryption key that fewer than 12 people currently alive possess, a radio transmission arrives. 5 seconds. 3 tones in a specific sequence. No voice. No identifier. The kind of signal that is never needed either. She knows what it means. She knows who sent it. She already knows where she goes next. Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVP Stories for more.